Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Edit with me. If you are new here, my name is Kaylee and I'm really glad you're here. I am a wedding and portrait photographer from sunny Florida. We're going to walk through a couple of these images today and you're going to watch me edit them. They're film scans and I'm also going to be using Jordan Britley's Britley presets. Now Jordan's presets are made for the digital photographer who wants her images to look like film, and I actually bought these presets before I actually committed to using film in my business because I knew that I wanted to eventually, and I wanted to go ahead and establish that aesthetic within my business, the aesthetic of film images. Now, while Jordan doesn't explicitly say that her images can be used to match film images, it's kind of a given, I guess, that you can use these to match your film images. But today I'm going to switch it up, and these are actually film images. They are shot with the Pentax 645n on a roll of Fuji Pro 400H with the Magic exposure combo, which is a roll of Fuji, rated at 200 and metered for the shadows. This was taken on my family farm. It was a personal work session that I had been dreaming up for a little while, and I'm super glad that these turned out the way they did. But we're about to edit them, and we're going to juice them up a little bit and pump them full of some more gorgeous light and some more of those creamy skin tones. So let's go ahead and get started with editing some of these. I'm super glad you're here. So let's go ahead and start editing some of these. Okay, so this first image, ooh, I love this image. I'm going to just apply Jordan's presets here. Now I'm going to show you how I use these presets first of all, before I kind of speed through the rest. But for the most part, these presets are focused heavily on brightening images, saving your highlights, and you're lightening up your shadows and adding grain, and just giving you some really nice options to edit quickly. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to start with her Lightnary Pro. Now she actually released an original collection when she first transitioned out of being just a photographer and into being an educator who released presets, and that particular set had this Lightnary basic preset here and then a few other presets to go along with it. But since then she has released updated versions of her presets, and this is called the Lightnary Pro, which is just a kind of an amplified version of the regular Lightnary basic with just a few tweaks to improve it. So Lightnary Pro, I'm going to add the Fujifilm overlay for this so that I can, because this is a Fujifilm shot, but I'm going to add it because I like the way it saves the highlights. I'm going to make this a little brighter, but I'm not going to use this preset because this is obviously way too bright. You're thinking, Kaylee, wow, that's like way too bright. But I'm going to pump this up to about 80. Yeah, that looks good. But what I personally like in my film images is I like to add more depth to my images. I come from a learning curve of producing really flat images, and film has really helped me to accomplish having depth in my images, but I still like to take it a little bit further by messing a little bit with my contrast and shadows toggles down here in the tone curve. So let's do that. I'm going to bump up my contrast to about 42, and that looks all right to me. I'm going to bring my shadows down just a little, and oh yeah, that adds so much depth. I love that. Look how creamy that skin tone is. Oh, this is my model Leah, by the way. She's super wonderful and did a great job that day. So this looks pretty good to me, but I want to focus right now on two last factors of this image that I really want to enhance. And the first being, I want to make this just a little bit more glowy. So I'm going to mess with my lights just a little and pump up those lights. Oh yes, and that's super glowy and perfect. And then lastly, I want to enhance her skin tone a little bit because this was shot in a field during golden hour, and there was so much green from the grass, like you can see here. There was a lot of green going on, and then there was also a lot of yellows casting up on her skin from this harsh yellow light back here. So I'm going to come down to my split toning, and I'm going to mess with that just a little bit. I'm going to start with the hue at about 15, and then my saturation at about 5. Yeah, that really adds a little bit of life to her cheeks for sure. I'm going to bring it down just by 2 little clicks. Oh yeah, that looks much better. And then my shadows, I'm going to do just about the exact same thing. And she definitely looks a lot more lively now. Maybe my shadows can come down one more. She looks so much more lively here, and I really, really love it. I'm going to adjust my greens a little bit because Fuji does produce those nice cool greens, but I want to pump it up just a tad bit more and make sure that they are nice and cool because it was just such a bright, warm day. And I love warm images, but I just want to, just my personal preference, I want to bring those down just a little bit. Oh yeah, much better. And let's get the before and after. Before and after. Super excited about that. That looks great. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to this image. Oh, I'm so excited about this image. So as you can see, this is really, really well backlit, super, super backlit. You can see my home that I grew up in for a few years, and you can see my grandfather's barn back here, which I'm going to leave because I think it's just, it adds a real world touch, and it doesn't make it way too ethereal for people to like not relate with. So I'm going to leave those back there. But as per usual, I want to add some more light up here to her because I see a lot of focus is being drawn to all of these light spots and these hot spots back here, which they're really, really beautiful and it's shining through her skirt. But just my personal preference, I want to add a little bit more focus to her, and I'm going to do that by bringing up my my exposure on her. And then just trying to retain some of those details and depth as well. So I'm going to go with the Lightnary Pro. Oh, that's beautiful already. Wow. Add a Fujifilm to make sure that some of my highlights are retained. Now, she has been brightened for sure, and some of my highlights have been retained, but I still feel like I'm losing a little bit of detail around here, and I really want to add some depth to her shadows here that are under her arm and maybe where she's holding her dress, and just places where you see darker spots. I want to make sure that those are accentuated just to add a little bit more depth. So I'm going to start with contrast, and I'm going to do the same thing and pump up my contrast to about 45. Yeah, that looks good. Come down to tone curve and bring down those shadows just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to bring down my highlights a little more just so my shadows aren't competing. And then my lights, I'm going to bring those up just a little bit. Nice, that looks really good. Oh, wow. Yeah, look at her feet down here. Super, super cute. I love it. I'm going to do just a little bit more contrast over here. Yeah, that's much better. All right, cool. Okay, that looks really good to me. I feel like I don't have to do much with her skin tone here. Maybe add a smallish tint adjustment, and then that looks pretty good to me. I love how she's glowing all up here around her face and through her hair. The sun's shining through her dress. I think that's really, really cute. I love it. Okay, before and after. Nice. I love it. Okay, moving on. This is a very different image from the two before. This image here has a lot of light going on, just a lot of saturated light, spilling through. But this one was after the sun had started to set just a little bit more. And you can still see it coming through the trees back here, but there's not as much hotspot light going on up here, and the shadows are a little bit deeper up here. So I know immediately that I'm going to want to brighten this up, and I'm going to brighten up my lights just a little bit more and still retain some depth. So let's go ahead and add our Lightnary Pro. Fujifilm. Let's see what it looks like with brighter. A little too bright. Let's work on that over here in our panel. I'm going to push this to about 80, push my contrast to about 50, which looks all right by me, and then I'm actually going to toggle my blacks just a little bit, so that I can kind of make sure this adds a little bit of depth to the image up here in the foreground. I'm going to pop down to my shadows and bring those down. Oh yeah, see the depth now that is present in all of these places in her dress and in the tree back here. I think that it just really helps to prevent a flat image for sure. Because once you brighten up images, you are really compromising your depth and your contrast. Because if you add more light, you need to adjust your contrast and your shadows as well. That way you don't result in a just a flat, washed out image. So I brought down my shadows. I'm going to bring down my highlights just a tad bit. And I'm going to play with my darks here just a little, just to add a little bit more of a punch. Ooh, yeah, that looks really good. And then bring up light just a little to add that pop. Looks good. Come down to my greens, and you know about me and my greens. I'm not an overly, like, I don't love my greens like this for sure, but I want to add like a cool tone to those greens. This looks really, really saturated, but I'm going to bring that down. Bring that down a little further. Still a little bit blue. Doesn't look quite natural. I'm going to bring that down just a little. Ooh, that's perfect. Okay, cool. All right. So in Jordan Burley's presets, she has these funny toggles right here that are called Restore Whites and Restore Whites Max. And I really, really love these because if you're working like me with images that are really, really bright and you're adding a lot of exposure into the images, you can sometimes realize that some of your whites and some of your bright spots are going to get blown out or going to get really lost in all of the exposure. So she created these presets that allow you to restore your whites, and I'm actually going to apply that Restore Whites Max so that I can make sure that my dress isn't, too lost, that all the details, like the seams of her dress, isn't lost, and these white skies back here aren't way too white and bright. So let's look at the before and after. Ooh, cool. I just want to see really quickly what it would look like if I opened up my lights a little more with that Restore Whites Max. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Cool. All right, yep, that was the final touch. Perfect. Nice. So pretty, I love it. Okay, and then last but not least is this beautiful picture. Oh, I love this picture. And while I was preparing for this video, I prepared by going through the edits that I was going to do. Because I've already edited this whole session and published it online on my website, but I wanted to go back and make sure that I was editing the way that I wanted to edit these. And today, as I was going through these, I made a little change, and that little change is going to be in her skin tone. So I already know before I demonstrate these presets and demonstrate these edits that I know I'm going to want to help her skin tone out a little bit. So I want to add, and I'm going to show you why in a minute, I want to add Lightnary Pro, add that Fuji. Let's see, too bright there. Yeah, way too bright. Okay, so far you can see this is getting to be a really beautiful image so far, just the light and her skin tone so creamy. But just a heads up, what I see from, I guess, my time of experience and my time in editing images is that I see that a lot of greens and yellows are casting up on her skin, and they make her just look a little bit sickly. I mean, it's just the slightest bit. There's no major changes that need to be made here, but I know just straight away when I look at this that there needs to be a little bit help. She needs a little bit of help with her skin tone. So I'm going to go ahead and do my light first, because I find that if you adjust all of your colors and then try to adjust your light afterwards, your colors are going to be distorted and you're going to have to go back and do your colors all over again. So I'm going to do my light first and then change my colors accordingly afterwards. So I'm on 60. Let's push that to 70. I like that at 45. I'm going to come down to the tone curve, and this is where you really see the beauty of pushing your shadows. She just pops now. There's just this pop for sure, and she stands out so much better. There's a lot of detail going on with her beautiful features and then her hair falling beside her face. If you add way too much light and you don't watch your shadows, then, like I said before, you lose depth, and it all just kind of seems to fall into each other, and there's nothing really that stands out about her face. So I added shadows to make sure that her detail is retained in her face. I'm going to bring down my highlights just a little bit, just for the sake of this moment. So now I'm going to go ahead and start on color. I see that the greens back here and the yellows back here that I only want to modify just a little. I don't want to push things to be super green like this. Because I want her to be the focus of the image, but I also want my whole image to have a really clean and seamless aesthetic as well. So I'm going to push my greens up just a little and then get rid of some of that saturation. Oh yeah, that looks like really good. Maybe a little more. All right, cool. Yep, and that looks good to me. So now I get to focus on her skin tone. It is first instinct to adjust your temperature and your tint in situations like this. But as you can see, if I adjust my temperature, then everything that I've just worked on here in the greens and here in the yellows gets kind of modified, and I'll have to go back and do that all over again. So I want to make the most impactful changes that I can that will result in the least amount of modification afterwards. So instead of using these temperature and tint sliders for now, which you totally can use if that's what you want, this is just me, I'm going to come down to my split toning down here, which is going to help out a lot. And I'm going to do my hue of 15, saturation of 5, and in my shadows, hue of 15 and saturation of 5. And you can already see it's adding just a warmth to her skin tone, just a little bit, kind of like, you know, the healthy blood flowing through your veins look. And while I really, really like it, I see just a little bit much going on, just in contrast to everything else that's going on into the image. I'm going to take this and I'm going to push it back down to about a 3. Same thing with the shadows, push down to a 3. And that looks way better, much better. She just looks like she has a, you know, a healthy, cute, flushed look to her without looking like she's been running a 5K. So I really like the way that looks. That looks great. Let's shuffle through all of our final products. Nice. 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 And nice. I'm very pleased with all of these. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so, so glad that you were here today. If you have never been here before, my name is Kaylee again, and I am a wedding and portrait photographer from sunny Florida, and I'm super glad to have you. If you want to connect with me or you want to read a little bit more about this session, you can check in the box below for links to my website, links to this entire post if you want to see the whole gallery, and you can connect with me. Just to establish a friendship. Yeah, I want to reach out to me. Tell me what you thought. And feel free to leave a request for more videos and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.